Today on the Basketball Manitoba podcast, we have Ogo Okwumabua. Ogo is a graduate of Glenlawn Collegiate, where he was ranked the 10th best high school player in the province. He played 2 years with the provincial team in 1994 and 1995. He then went on to play with the Manitoba Bisons for 5 seasons. While there, he was Great Plains' first team All-Star twice and second team All-Star once. He went on to play professionally with the Winnipeg Cyclone of the IBL in 2000. Ogo is a staple in the basketball community. Beyond playing the game, he's helped support and grow the culture in some unique ways. He started the Hoopsfanatic brand in 2001, which sold clothing and provided jerseys to most of the province's high school and club programs. He then launched the Hoopsfanatic Summer League in 2003, which showcased the province's youth. This included the Hoopsfanatic Summer League for men, which was the best league in the province for 6 years. Additionally, Ogo coached for 10 years with Fort Richmond. He built a successful program and led the team to the 4A Provincial Championship game in his first year with the program. He's also coached at Red River College for 5 years, as well as an assistant with the Bisons for 5 years. Currently, Ogo is the co-owner of the brand Zueke, a brand built around community and a belief that we are all one people and one village. Ogo, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, what's up, Doris? How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I was waiting for this episode because, you through the pandemic, you were kind of doing your own podcast. They were kind of just ad hoc, throwing up Instagram lives and then just talking to people and then bringing people on. And it was interesting because like sometimes you had like some topics. Well, I mean, you always had like some topics you wanted to discuss. And some interesting conversations would break out and you'd bring on some cool people. And I really enjoyed that what you were doing there. Sometimes you're just like watching a game and like you throw it on.
it was literally a brief run. I think you were on one of them. It was I was learning Instagram. In all honesty, I realized I'm an old man that technology was getting away from me. So people started telling me, okay, this is Instagram. How do you use it? And it took me 45 minutes to do a post. To do a simple post, it would take me so long. But then I learned about this live feature. And the live feature, I was like, well, it acts as a post and I can just communicate. And I prefer kind of chopping it up with, and I don't come up with like beautiful pictures. I'm not that guy. I can't figure it all out.
Yeah.
So I would just go on. And if you happen to, if I saw you pull up on my thing, I would invite you. And then we would just talk about basketball. We talk about, do you pee in the shower? We would talk about, any random thing that I thought was funny or interesting at the time. And it was, I went, I think you said I was on there quite often for a little while during the COVID period. And then now I'm kind of back off of it for a little while here, but I might my talk show might make a return later on.
Well, people enjoyed it. I know that much because when other people are talking about it, like, oh yeah, I saw you on this, or they're like, you see Ogo's doing this. So, well, you mentioned the pandemic and, obviously you were doing a lot of that because of you're just kind of sitting at home now. There's nothing going on. You're like, let me do something. And it's just kind of been a crazy 2 years. I mean, yeah, very unique. I mean, obviously sometimes, we've all maybe had times in our life that were crazy, but it's very, very unique in the sense that like for everyone, it was crazy, Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious, like, has your perspective or how has your perspective changed personally? How you see the world? How has it changed maybe since 2019 when kind of all this started to now?
Man, it's pretty crazy. I mean, the journey for me with COVID starting, I had just quit my job and started Zueke. That was, I went there not thinking, hey, I've got 4 kids, got a family to feed, and I quit my job to hopefully take on a new venture. And lo and behold, the world pandemic hits us, and you gotta make things work. And I knew that cash was going to be an issue already to start, and of course, it made it 10 times worse because my wife is also an entrepreneur and she has her hairstyling business, and she shuts down for a little bit. So it was pretty crazy, but I mean, just with everything kind of going, you kind of get perspective of what's important, what's not important. During that time, it's been crazy to think that, we had the George Floyd incident. We had so many other just actual real world issues, not Ogo doesn't get to go to work every day, like real issues. And during that time, it just, you go back and you reflect, and I have young kids, and you want to start to think about, what do I want for them and what do I want for my community, and all that type of stuff started to resonate and hit me a little bit different. That tells me that I'm getting old, but it definitely, I started to think a little bit more big picture. And COVID has just kind of opened my eyes to that, and what I thought was important might not be as important as it was previously. But I think that also comes with growth and being at 20 years old. There's, you're very about yourself, right? That's what you think of. The world revolves around you, and as you get a little bit older, you start to realize that it's not all about you, and a lot of these other issues that are kind of occurring in the world. You kind of want to say, hey, what is a small thing that I can do to maybe either open up someone's eyes about them or improve them, right? And it's just like basketball. If every basketball player, if you want to get a better handle, you go in the gym and you work on that, right? You got to actually apply it and do some of the work. And that's no different than life skill. Like, you got to get out and just sometimes just do the work and see, hey, it could be small, it could be a little bit, but it always seems to leave a little impact on what's going on. So yeah, perspective for sure completely changed. And I also realized how much I miss my community in terms of like basketball. Like, I didn't realize how important in terms of, I've talked about a little bit when I was on my lives, but we also through our work and stuff, mental health kind of has been like a big key word that a lot of people are talking about, but it's a thing that as athletes, as you know, and I know, we don't talk about, our feelings in the locker room, or you don't talk about, having issues or anything like that. That's where you got to be the guy. You got to be in control of all things, and nothing hurts you. Nothing. You're not allowed to be weak, right? So
true.
During this time, I didn't realize how much basketball or just my community allowed me to relieve stress and get different perspectives. And when I was caught up at home, I started getting anxiety issues and stuff like that, and things that I never. And it was weird because it was coming up as a physical issue, not necessarily as like just, oh, I'm just nervous or whatever. But I'd be like, I thought I had COVID probably 100 times. I was like, oh, what is this? I think I have the COVID. My wife, I kept going to her. I was like, I have the COVID. Oh my gosh. She's like, well, have you done anything today? Like, have you worked out? Have you gone out and done all these things? And I was like, no, I've just been here on my computer, laptop, whatever. And she was like, well, you might be having some and then I started to realize, okay, this had happened early morning, because I started to think about what had to go on during the course of the day. And you just think about all the things that COVID has brought to light, something that I'm pretty comfortable to talk about anything, right? And I just never thought, I would be the guy that would have an issue with anxiety, or I would be, as a basketball player, you guys had Mr. Martin. I still call him Mr. Martin, but Scott Martin's been on this podcast, and his father actually was a sports psychologist. And I had him at my first year at U of M, and he was great in terms of like just kind of honing you back and refocusing on certain stuff. But when we talk about sports psychology and all that type of stuff, it's still always to get you back on being the most alpha athlete you can possibly be. But it doesn't really talk about, why might you be having these issues, right? And the understanding of why is probably the most important piece of it all. Why are you nervous? Why are you freaking out? Why you got the hiccups? Whatever it might be, that is probably more important to kind of find out why is it that you're having these issues, because then you can figure out how to deal with it. But it's been pretty nuts. Yeah,
man. No, you've so many of the things you said, I totally agree with, or I've heard other people or went through myself. Now, you had mentioned the community piece, with the basketball community piece. So I have to ask you, man, like, you're still playing senior men's, aren't you?
Oh yeah, we still getting it today, man. We're still getting it today. Yeah.
So I have to ask, you mentioned I'm getting old. How old are you right now? I just want to frame it for everybody.
40, yes, I'm 44, turning 45 this year.
Okay. So you're 44, and you know what? I knew you were playing senior men's because obviously I have a good friend who still plays and is a little younger than you, Graham Bodner, and then I was like, is Ogo still playing? He was telling me about a game, I think you guys played or something like that. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Ogo's still playing. And he's like, yeah. And he's still looking pretty good. And I was like, how? And I'm like, how old is Ogo? And I'm like, well, I thought he's like 42, 40. So you're 44. And you're still
Let's
moving good.
Bodner, we beat you that day too.
Oh yeah, no, he told me.
Yeah, okay,
that was the thing, because you're still playing with the young players, man. And like, and then shout out to Souk as well. Like, I think both of you are kind of like, how the hell are these guys, part of my swearing there, how are these guys doing this still? And I know back in the day, and I just have to ask this now, back in the day, you just run in the gym and you'd be like, oh, let's go. Are you still doing that? Like, are you still no warming up? Like, you just sprint onto the floor and still going?
I don't do it. It's not advisable at my age, to be honest. But I'll be honest. At the beginning of every game, like Souk, all of them, they get mad at me because it takes me a good quarter and a half to warm up. So yeah, I'm old enough now, also wise enough. If you don't pass it in the pocket, I'm outstretching to get it. If it goes out of bounds, so be it. I could care less. Like, I'm not. Kids, they hit jumpers on me. They do all the things they need to do in the first quarter. Have at it. Have your day. Until I warm up, then I start to actually play. But it's true. Like it's a little bit harder because I'm running from kids. Like I'm coming in, and I'm not going to be like, hey, I'm going to be there 45 minutes before. Yeah. But really, basketball in terms of playing is great. It's fun. It's great to it keeps you a little bit young and keeps me connected to the culture and what's going on and what's happening. But realistically, it's my way to see my friends. Like if I don't play basketball, if I'm not playing a sport, I don't see them because we all get caught up in work or we get caught up in our families. And it's probably we all, success is measured completely different now. I don't, winning a game could care less as much now. It's, did I get out of there unhurt? Right? Did I not get hurt? And then secondly, are we going out for a drink after? Right? And those are the two things that you'll see our group chat is me, Raj, Souk, and Chris Lucas. The number one thing that we say, hey, are you at the game? Yes. Okay. Where are we going to have a beverage after? And that's basically the most important part of the whole entire thing. So that's been wonderful that it's returned.
Well, and so that's interesting because, like I said, you're 44, and that's still an important part of your life is that connection, and it was formed through basketball. So I kind of want to go back to the start, because I have known you for a long time now. Yeah. But there was one time when I was a younger kid. I had no idea who you were, and so when I was thinking back, I'm like, what was my first memory of Ogo? And it was actually probably 2001, 2002. And you were actually brought out to play one-on-one against Isaac Ansa, right? And Isaac was a phenomenal player at the time, and he was trying to play Division I basketball. And someone, I don't remember from where, was up doing it, like running an individual, checking him out. And our coach at the time, Coach Nowring, he actually brought you out to play and like defend him, just to kind of like give this guy a look. And I mean, you made it tough. Let's just say the least. I mean, you're a phenomenal athlete. Who are you, like 6'5", Isaac's 6'1"? You're probably as athletic as him. And I think you were assigned just to play defense. So you're like, okay. And you made it tough. And it was like, I was like, did he just like screw this guy out of a scholarship? But I say all that just to say, that was my first kind of, when I'm thinking back, like the first memories of you, right? Because like obviously I have tons playing senior men's and all this stuff and Hoops Fanatic. And like I have all these other memories of you. But that's my first one. So then I want to ask you, in when I was thinking back, what's my first memory of Ogo? What's your first memories of basketball? Who introduced you to the game? Like, when did you start playing it seriously, or even recreationally for that matter?
Oh, it's weird. I come from a soccer family. So my dad, Nigerian, came here. We played soccer. And my friends, we went to Samuel Berlin High School and Samuel Berlin High School Junior High, and they were the one that started playing basketball. And this is, the beginning of the Jordan era, right? Kind of the beginning. UNLV was hot at the time. Like it was really early in the game. And my first actual memory, it was, my friends used to watch it, and my dad let me watch the day that Jordan hit the shot on Craig Elo. Okay. On Craig Elo. So I'm in grade 5 at this point, right? Grade 5. I was like, oh, this is really, really cool. So after this, now we're starting to play in driveway. My dad gets us to hoop, but, because people in the area get it. We start playing around grade 5. And at San Berlin, they used to have, you'd have your grade 7 or your grade 6 junior high team, grade 6 and grade 7. And your coach, your high school coach, Mr. Narang, or Minich, Minoj now, and he was the one, actually, they used to have like a developmental league. And I got to play on the developmental league in this little thing. And if you were good enough, you get pulled up. I was a great athlete. I was a terrible basketball player. But that was actually how it kind of started. It was even before then. We'd play outside at recess in a gym. No, he was actually our homeroom teacher, Mr. Hominick. I haven't seen him forever, but Mr. Hominick used to let us play until the buzzer went off and 15 minutes extra. He would just let us play and play. Yeah. It was like the greatest thing ever because the recesses were always extended. Lunch hours were always extended as long as we were playing basketball. So he would allow us to kind of go. So we would kind of play, and that's where all of a sudden I was like, oh, I like this. And my dad didn't know much about basketball, so I wasn't going to hear necessarily, hey, you're not doing this in soccer, or you're not doing that. I thought, oh, and all my friends are going. So I said, we started playing it, and it just, all of a sudden, I just fell in love with it. Like it used to be the funnest thing that we do. We'd go, we'd play around. I wasn't good. Actually, funny story, my college coach is Rick Suffield. Rick Suffield's son, Chad Suffield, happened to be at the same junior high that I was. And he was in grade 9, I think, at the time. And I was, I think, grade 5, grade 6, still super raw. Don't know anything about basketball, whatever. Mm-hmm. And of course, he's good. To me, he's like he's in the school, there's 3 guys, and he was like one of the top guys. And he got to play in an intramurals team, but you had to pick up 2 younger guys, right? So Chad goes and he looks through, and there I am, and there's another guy. And Chad picks myself and 2 others. Now, lo and behold, we're both black. Okay, we're both black, and I, to this day, make the assumption that Chad picked the 2 of us because he was used to watching the teams from Brandon Bobcats beat up on his dad's team and assumed that we know how to play basketball. So we play on his team, and we are so bad. Like we're running all over the place, but we can't dribble. We can't, and we're so bad that we also, this is when you know you're the sign of a bad basketball player is when you get in the way of a good basketball player. So by the end of it, he couldn't get his shot off. He couldn't do anything because we were in the way. It wasn't because the other defenders were getting in his way. It's because we kept, and then by the end of it, we had somehow he had fallen into one of us and broke his nose during the thing. It was amazing, but it's one of my fondest memories of basketball because to this day I still say, Chad, you picked us because you thought we were good at basketball. It's a lesson for all. Just because you're black doesn't mean you're good at basketball. You might have a clue, but yeah, it was a pretty funny time. So yeah, it's been a long journey.
So that's funny that when you ended up playing for Suffield. So then what happened? So you're obviously terrible. When did you start getting good? Because I mean, in your bio, I read you played 2 years provincial team. I don't know if that was way later, like when you were in college already, but when did you start becoming a good basketball player? Because at Glenlawn, you were obviously good. You were a top 10 player.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that level of what you consider good is very, subjective. I don't think I was actually really good at basketball until maybe my 2nd year or 3rd year university. But in terms of I was always a great competitor. I think I compete. Like the one thing people wouldn't say that, hey, Ogo's lazy or whatever. My gift was, my parents gave me pretty good genetics. I was able to run and jump higher and do things. And one thing, even though my dad, could no longer coach me in soccer, he could tell me in basketball that he used to tell me if I was playing and I was useless, he says, he's from Nigeria. So get this, he would say, my son, he was out there, he runs like a goat. Right. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what is that? You run like a goat. And I'm like, what's a goat? Like, well, what do you mean? Like, this is not the greatest of all time. He's like, and then he would parade around like this, meaning I was tired and lazy and not playing hard. And it would be like a dinner joke that he would always say. But his thing was, if you're out there, I know at the very least if you're working hard. So at the very least, you should be working hard all the time, right? Go and rebound, do whatever you can. He didn't know about offenses. He didn't know about dribbling. He didn't know about any of that type of stuff. But he knew that, I look like a goat, meaning I was being lazy on the court. So I think that just helped me quite a bit throughout time. And my first provincial team was actually, I was a smaller guy. I was 5'9" in grade 10. And 5'9", 5'10", and I was like a small kind of little guy. And the summer of grade 10, I used to go to Bison East, and I just started to shoot up, and I guess puberty hit, and I started to get a little bit taller and got a little bit stronger, and I still had the ability to run and jump and do this stuff. A lot of my coordination, of course, left me with it, but through that next year, that's kind of how I got the opportunity to be coached by Coach Martin and Joel Themmen. And that was my first kind of taste at what I would say was elite basketball. I mean, from there on, it had always been me playing basketball with, my friends, which was awesome and stuff like that. But I never actually had a dream of like going to play college or going to the NBA or any of that. None of that was actually a thing for me. It was just like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then I got invited to do this, and I was like, okay, I'll go and do it. And every single time it's just been, I'll do it. And I've been lucky enough that I've been able just to scratch, either make the team or just get in there and work my butt off and become one of the better players on the team and continue on. So
yeah,
that's kind of how it's been.
So Coach Martin and Coach Joel Themmen. So was that like a U15 team or what? Like, because you said you were young at the time.
Yeah, it was U15. So it was a U15 juvenile team that they had out here. And you would have to, this is one of the best things I think, I wish Basketball Manitoba would bring it back. So since Adam, now you're watching, hopefully we bring it back. But the areas that we used to do regionals, you used to play in it too, where you'd be in your region. And if you were the better players, you'd play on a regional team. And then from the regional team, that was the ID camp basically for the provincial team. Instead of it being an official ID camp, you would play through it and then you'd get invited. Yeah. And that's kind of how I got my first opportunity. I did okay in this regional area. They heard about me and said, hey, come out and try out for the team. And Coach Martin was probably my favorite coach of all my coaches. He was tough. I think I did better under coaches that were pretty tough on me, but he also just had a great, like, playful nature. He started off really tough. And as you got closer to the middle of the season, understood who he was and what he was, you realize he's a jokester and likes to have a lot of fun and stuff like that. And him and Joel Themmen has been like a big portion of my life in terms of basketball. When I say, hey, why do I think I became a good basketball player in university? And by that time, I think up to that point, I just ran, jumped, and just played. Like, I didn't understand what I was even doing. I was just running, jumping. And weird story is that Joel at university, second year university, at the bookstore, we see each other. He was my coach. We talk, and he goes, "Hey, Ogo, how do you think? How do you think you are as a basketball player?" And
so, hold on. I got to stop you. That's a great Joel impression. That's exactly, you even did like his head things, but continue, Joel, if you're watching, this is how you look, but go ahead.
So Joel, if people don't know who Joel looks like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like he does. He's a big, bald head. At the time, looked just like Stone Cold, and tough exterior look, but a softy inside. And we are sitting there, and we're in front of the bookstore, and he's like, "So what do you think you are as a basketball player?" And I thought, he goes, "What do you think you do well?" And I say, "Well, I penetrate really well." He goes, "No, you don't, because penetrating requires you to be under control, all right? And you can." I said, "Well, I defend really well." He goes, "Yeah, decently, like you're okay defender." He goes, "I'm a pretty good rebounder." He goes, "You're okay when you want to actually do it, but you don't do it that well." I go, you don't have a pull-up jumper, you don't have this, you don't know. And he went off. I mean, he just basically took me from, I thought I was the man. And I think this is after like a game that I actually played and scored like a lot of points. And then he just crushed me. But he crushed me to a point that I was like, man, I suck at basketball. Like, I'm actually terrible. But his thing was, hey, tomorrow, meet me at the gym at this time. And he put in work with me for the next year, 2 years, 3 years of just, let's learn the game. Let's start from the bottom and let's see what we can do in terms of developing me. And I've always kind of been behind in terms of like learning, not athletically, but just in terms of the game. Mm-hmm. And I thought, with him, that's when I decided, hey, actually I can be pretty good at basketball and learn it. So I just wish I would have learned that when I was much younger, because maybe I would have gone further. So
when Joel was doing working with you, you were in college already? Like,
I was in college. Yeah.
I
was in college. So we knew each other through juvenile team, junior team, all the provincial teams, but we never had a lot of one-on-one kind of work. The first time I actually played Joel in juvenile, I think it was juvenile team, he beat me. I think it was like 11-0. Like, I thought I was great dude at that time. And he just waxed me. But so our relationship has been incredible. Like when you talk about community and you talk about basketball influences, Joel's up there as maybe number one for me, Mr. Martin. And then lo and behold, Randy Cassano, which is probably has touched just about everybody in terms of what the game has been. But Randy, I actually used to go to school or daycare with his daughter Mika. We were talking earlier about 1 degree of separation, but we're talking about me being in grade 1. And all my life I had been in proximity to Mr. Cassano, and it was really weird that I was in junior high. No, I was in high school. I think my first year of high school, but I used to have a paper route and I used to deliver papers, and I used to go to this guy's house, drop his paper off, go on and sometimes in the morning I'd see him drive and he'd have a basketballs and his thing, but I just thought, oh, cool, whatever. But when I got to high school, people used to, Oak Park, this, they'd say Randy Cassano, Randy, Coach K. And I still didn't know who this guy was, right? So had no idea who it was. And my junior team provincial tryout, I'm sitting with Jafel Falsis. We're in the crowd at Bison East, and we're still going through tryouts. And I look at the door, and him and Tony Scott kind of walk into the building. And I look over at him and I go, what is he doing here? And Jafel goes, that's Coach K. And I go, that's not Coach K. I deliver papers to that man. Like I said, I've been delivering papers to him for the last 2 years. What are you talking about? That's Mika's dad. That's how I knew him, as Mika's dad, not knowing that he was like the generational coach out here. And I was like, no, that's not Mr. K. I deliver papers to him. He's like, no. And I said, what do you mean? And I lived 2 minutes, 2-minute walking distance from him. And he knew, I guess, who I was. I had no idea who he was. But those have been some of the major influences in my life. And I think that's probably why community and getting back into coaching and all those type of things have been super important in terms of my growth and wanting to do what I do when I've gotten older.
Sure. Yeah. There's some positive people. We have a list of people to interview, and obviously, Coach Cassano's on there, and I'm just like, man, I can't wait for that interview, because it's just going to be like, listen, just go. I'm just going to let him talk. And he tells the stories, and he's got a sharp memory too. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, he's a legend, like literally, every time I get to see him, I'm happy. Hey, what's going on? If I see him in person, it's like, you actually get happy to see him.
Super pumped, super excited. So no, his daughters, and we were talking about this before, Darcy, in terms of the degrees of separation. His daughters helped give birth of 2 of my children.
No way.
In the room, like going through the whole entire thing. And there's Marla right in the business, and just such an amazing thing. So.
That's wild. That's that Winnipeg.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot. Like, I mean, it's, again, for a Canadian sized city, it's a middle sized city. But like the degrees of separation, it's just so tight, man. Like, it's
so tight.
Yeah, you can meet someone that you never meet them just randomly if you just say enough names. Oh yeah, I know them. Oh, that's my best friend. Hey, I live next. It's like it's crazy. Well, speaking of Winnipeg stuff, I actually want to ask you about the Cyclones. So you played for the Cyclones for a year, and I remember the Cyclones because I obviously remember the Thunder before them, and then the Thunder went away, and then the Cyclone came later on. But I just want to ask, like, really, like, how did you even get on the team? Did they say, "Hey, we need a Winnipeg guy"? They wanted you. Did you seek them out? Tell us a story about how that even happened.
They had an open tryout, so I had just finished playing college, and it's weird because I didn't have any sort of like. All through my life, I've never had like these like aspirations of being like an NBA or kind of player. I kind of play in the moment, and if it gets me another opportunity, I kind of play it. So year end, I wasn't finished kind of playing. I just said, okay, I'll go and work out. There's Cyclone are here. I'll train and see what happens. So there was like a first level. You had to go through a camp where they brought in all these other Americans and stuff like that. And basically, I had to be good enough to beat these guys out to get to that next step. Grant Richter happened to be a local guy, but he was a coach at that time. Daryl Dawkins had just kind of left at this time, and he got the opportunity to do it. And I did well in my first camp. First camp, the next camp, the main camp. The main camp kind of had all the main guys, from LA, from Chicago, wherever it was. They were all kind of guys that were there. And at first I was super nervous because, I was used to being the best athlete, at least. So I could jump over top of people. I could do whatever I wanted. And when I got there, it was completely different. So it was just faster. It was like, again, I'm behind again now at this point. It wasn't that I couldn't run and jump with them. It was just that things were happening way faster. So I go to the basket and I'd go and give a nice little finger roll. And some guy would come on. I remember this guy. He sounded like Snoop Dogg too. He looked like Snoop Dogg. He sounded like Snoop Dogg. All of it. It was just, he was so LA. And he blocked my stuff. And he was like, get that out of here. And he just started talking all this nonsense to me. And I was like, holy smoke. And then he's like, you better dunk that the next time you come around here. So you realize every time you had to go the hole, if you're going to get there, you better dunk on someone. Right. So as I became a little bit more comfortable with the environment, luckily this is happening over, a week period. Like I have to get comfortable really, really, really fast.
Yeah.
I started to be able to find my role and like every basketball player, you realize, okay, well, my role probably is not going to be a scorer on this team. My role might be a rebounder, might be a defender. So I just decided to become a defender. I started to defend. I started to get into it. I wasn't scared. There was guys that were really, really good, but I wasn't like, oh my gosh, you're so good, I can't play with you. I just started to kind of figure it out. And I kind of just got down to the end there. And I think being a local boy also helped me and just kind of gave me the opportunity and said, hey, you know what? At this time, I'm actually still going to school. I was finishing out my business degree.
Okay.
So that first half of that year, I was taking a whole bunch of classes just to finish up my degree and but trying out for the team. And then finally they were like, hey, you made it. And we're going to sign you. And I was like, cool, whatever. And that was kind of great. But it was such a neat, eye-opening piece where you start to realize, in terms of basketball, we're not far behind. Like I think a lot of people, I'm far behind compared to LeBron James, but when you start to think of, these are all ex-Division I guys that came over here to play, and you're like, oh, you're good, but you're not like insurmountable, or you're not someone that I can't compete with. And they just play the game maybe a little bit harder than we do at times, consistently, I should say. And and then all of a sudden I was just like, wow, this is pretty cool. We got to play against, I don't know if you remember Melvin Levitt. Do you remember Melvin Levitt?
I don't.
He played with Kenyon Martin. He was a first round draft pick. They used to call him the helicopter. He played for Cincinnati. I remember the week before we were about to play him, and I was like stoked. I was like, you guys were gonna play against Melvin Levitt, but these guys are so used to playing all these guys. These are guys I grew up with, whatever. But I was like, I see him on CBS every thing. I mean, this dude, I can't even wait. So the game comes, and luckily this game I'm signed, and I get some playing time, and I actually get to cover him. So the first time he gets the ball, he looks at me and he smiles, but he tries to go past me. I cut him off. He tries again, cut him off. He passes it, move it around. Comes around, whatever, and I start to realize he's not that good. And then he gets in front of me, and he says something to me, like he's kind of talking shit. And I don't even know. Sorry, Adam, I shouldn't be swearing or whatever. But
we got to beep these out now.
Yeah, we'll have to beep them out. But he looks at me and starts saying, "Oh, I can't even remember the actual words he says." And I look at him, and I actually go, "You know what? You suck." And I actually say, I just like, "You are terrible. I thought you were going to be good." And I was so just, it was more of like just a disappointment in terms of, you played like with Bobby Huggins and like Kenyon Martin, and you were a first round NBA draft pick, and you were nowhere near the level of like Keith Bassel. Like I played against Keith Bassel, and I played against him. And I would never have said Keith Bassel sucked. Like Keith Bassel was the beast. And then I played this guy, and I was like, oh, the disappointment in my heart. I was like, I'm step for step. You can't even score against me, and you're talking trash. And I was like,
wow.
It was a hard lesson, but a good lesson that I realized, oh, you know what? Not that far off. It's just kind of, sometimes it's opportunity and environment. So
that's crazy. So did you play? You played just home games and away games? Like you played the whole season that year?
I did. Not the whole season. I kind of was in and out at times. I'd get released or I'd come back in. But I got I went on. I played a number of home games, and then I went on a couple. I think I went on one kind of major, like a big kind of road trip, whatever, over there. So we kind of got around to go and see kind of some of the other guys, and you start to realize, oh, why that guy is not in the NBA, or why guy's not in. But there were so many guys where I was just like, wow, you're really good, or you're, guys that have been drafted in the NBA. And there's like, well, the reason I didn't stay, one guy we met, I can't remember his name is right now, but got drafted the same year as Jason Kidd.
No way.
And the year after Jason Kidd, but he realized I got drafted. I'm there, but I'm probably not going to be on the team because they've got Jason Kidd, so I'm going to get cut. And that was kind of his thing. He just had to go to another program and see if he can get an opportunity to go Europe or whatever. And that's where he kind of showed up and played our league, and he was awesome, and then moved on. So
that league, there's so much talent in the States. So like those leagues were, like you said, were loaded with guys. I think correct me if I'm wrong, like the actual Thunder, it was a different league, was it not? Yeah. But again, same kind of talent, like still talented guys. I remember in that league, there was like ex-NBA guys, like they're in the league for like 5 years and they're playing here. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. So
it was,
there's States has so much talent. Now, actually, it was funny. So I didn't have this in my notes, but you're talking about playing these guys. And I actually remember when Hotsauce brought his tour to Winnipeg. Do you remember that?
I do.
And you played. And I remember because I was in the stands, and I just remember there was like a few rules. Like if you get dunked on, you got to like sit off. I remember, Coach Steven Taku, I'm going to be interviewing soon. He was out there as well. And he was, doing what he does, high energy, big dunks. He was running around going crazy. What do you remember about that game?
I remember that we weren't allowed to actually play basketball. So I remember that game. Truly, we were not supposed to play actually good defense. It was supposed to be basically like a globetrotter showcase. Yeah. And
so you guys are supposed to be embarrassed, essentially.
We're supposed to get embarrassed. But a certain level of pride, of course, takes over. And I remember this to the T. It's easy. You can kind of fool around. I just walk around. But I remember Hotsauce versus Cletus Joseph. Cletus Joseph is a friend of mine, but Cletus is not like, when it gets to competing, he kind of is like, oh, and this time is the And One mixtape era, whatever. And he was like, I'm not letting this guy just make me look like a fool in my community. He can come into my community, make me look bad, and leave. So in the middle of the game, Cletus starts to play like real defense and starts to he starts putting on tricks. He starts doing his own little thing. And Hot Sauce kind of gets upset, like is like, dude, you're not supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be letting me get my crossover and doing all this stuff. And, you know, you try to over exaggerate, but for a little while, Cletus just wouldn't let him. He was talking smack to him back and forth. So that was like my fondest, like, I was just like, oh, these guys, they stink. But I remember Cletus just not letting him have his day in the sun. He wouldn't let Hot Sauce be Hot Sauce. He was kind of like, no, you're not going to just cross me up in this fucking. Yeah, so it was pretty funny, but a cool time. I think that era was pretty fun. It was such an interesting time. I mean, Hot Sauce, and they were like the modern day Globetrotters, right?
Exactly what they were. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they had guys from like High Octane was on the squad. There was guys from the original N1 tour that were joining Hot Sauce. Something else I remember, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to call out some people here. I mentioned, you know, Coach Stephen Tacky was running around doing what he's doing, big dunks and stuff. Cause you know, there was some big dunks and whatnot. But you had mentioned Cletus, and actually so I heard this story, and then you need to verify this is true. So what I saw on the court was Mike Page. Mike Page got into it. Mike Page was in it too. Yes. He something happened with Hot Sauce. I don't know if he shook Hot Sauce. And then I remember this so vividly, and Hot Sauce was turned around. I think he was complaining or something like that. And then Mike did the Hot Sauce thing on Hot Sauce's head. And I think he got kicked out. Like he wasn't allowed to play anymore or something like that. They sat him down, but correct. So that I saw, so I know what happened, but was Mike also not trying to hype you guys up in the locker room? Did that not happen? Because I've heard this from people.
Mike he's a competitor.
Of course.
If Mike's from LA coming into our city, and he brings his LA swag and stuff like that. And he was still want to be a ball player. I mean, he was not like, I was retired. Like I was kind of, at the end, and I was like, whatever, this will be whatever. Mike was ready to go. Like it was like a real game, ready to kind of get it going. And he was like, nah, they're not going to. And if anyone knows Mike, he loves a good smack talk. Like he was not going to back down at all. And it's funny because it was him and Cletus basically getting in trouble because they weren't allowing the show to go on. And I forgot all about the Mike Wade part. But he was definitely like, Mike was not going to let anybody kind of go and embarrass him. And he was like, oh, this is my chance to basically, this is your opportunity. And Mike was like, well, no, this is my opportunity. It's a big stage. Yeah. Let me have some fun with it too. So yeah, it was really, really crazy. But I mean, I know he got excited. The problem is that I was old, so I don't get excited. Yeah. I was just like, okay, we're going to go and do this. And I'll go and sit on the bench for a little while and play around.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I know what this is. So
that's too funny, man. That's too funny. I kind of wanted to switch a little bit though. So I want to talk about Hoopsfanatic. So Hoopsfanatic, and you tell me if this is different, because this is how I remember it, right? So I was around for all of this. I was, I think in college when you first launched the brand. What year was it again that you first launched it?
2001.
Okay, so it was like first year of college, right? So in my mind, you're single-handedly credited for bringing in the baggy shorts into the province for high schools. Because at the time, and this is what I remember. Now, you correct me. Like, I'm sure there were some schools who got some, but for the most part, people still had like the shorter shorts. And the baggy shorts were big at the time.
They were. So we were just in style. Right time, right place. The style changed. Iverson was out there. Every guard was taking every big man's pair of shorts to get the look. Yep. And we decided that we came up and developed, Hoopsfanatic to have like our uniforms had baggy shorts. We had the bigger shorts, and we were kind of the first ones, just happened to be out here that were doing it because, Sax and Athletic hadn't adopted it at that time. Yep. So we were kind of some of the first that were able to put them on high school teams. We didn't get on a lot of university squads, but we were able to kind of get out there and kind of follow kind of the fashion and the trends that were just happening at the time, from headbands to arm sleeves, to you name. We were like, at that time, we were the number one Reebok jersey supplier in all of, I think it was Western Canada. It was pretty awesome. I got a free trip over to Minneapolis to watch Kobe and some NBA games because of it. But it was pretty amazing time. So
well, like So Hoops Fanatic was, again, like it was a staple brand, like not only because like you were kind of like up to speed with the culture, but you were doing it. You're a basketball guy. You're part of the culture, and it was a brand that like was about basketball, and you went on to do 2 leagues and stuff like that. But what kind of like, why did you start it? Were you just like, hey, I want to do this one day? Were you always interested in because you're still doing it now, right? Like, yeah. You're still in that industry, right? And then you worked for a home run. So like, this is early on. Why'd you start the brand?
That's a great question. I think when I was younger, I used to like not younger, but just going through university, I like to get my gear. Like, gear is like the most number one thing you get. What am I getting for gear? And then when we got out, I was like, well, they don't have this jersey or these shorts for certain athletes or whatever. And I was like, well, I love basketball. I love staying kind of connected to it. How can I do it? And that's where kind of the idea of Hoops Fanatic kind of was born. We started off with some t-shirts. We started off with a couple of things, and we decided, hey, you know what, we're gonna go and make a brand of it. And it was myself, and I started with a friend with Jeff, and Chris Lucas, actually a former teammate of mine, had a travel agency literally kitty corner from my store. So we were right across from each other. And that's kind of how it started. We were just kind of, kept me involved in the community of basketball. I loved gear. So I was just like, well, let's kind of get into it and see what we can kind of build from it. And, but it was not something that I was like, hey, I'm going to leave university with the idea of starting a basketball brand. But I knew I liked business. Like my degree was in entrepreneurship, and we went through a number of like things, and I was like, oh, I love business. Like I like different parts of business. So I thought, hey, let's give this a go and try it out. And the only mistakes I have a couple of mistakes that I made while doing it. I first off, I was in Portage Place. I mean, which we all know is not necessarily the greatest. We were hoping that it would become something better, but the traffic levels weren't necessarily there. And then second part was I started to move away from my brand and kept buying. At that time, a Nike rep actually said we were thinking a little ahead of our time, because now it's cool to have boutiques. At that time for Nike and all the bigger brands, all the cool stuff would always go to Foot Locker or go to, the big box stores at that time, where now it's all about, can I get the most unique shoe at a boutique, right? And if we would have held on a little bit longer, that would have been awesome for us. We would have had a nice little boutique and able to kind of supply kind of different things. But that was probably the biggest issue of things where, you're buying stuff, but you're buying stuff that the big box stores have better margins or bigger opportunities. And that's where some of the kids were going. But still great learning experience. And the summer leagues and all that type of stuff was like super fun. Like that's where I got to see, where you came from, who is this light-skinned shooter that's from my alma mater, you know what I mean? You're from Glenlawn. I got there's the Anthas played with my brother and Irfan and so many young, my sister at this age, same age as you guys, was around that time. And I just kind of got, it was great because I got to stay connected to the sport. I got to see who was coming up, who wasn't, and wonderful guys like Johnny Lundgren and Spiros Kavadas and Scott Kirkpatrick, all helped with the summer league in terms of like coaching, and we would have fun drafts and kind of do things that just allowed us to kind of see who the next upcoming players were and see where, hey, where are they going, give them an opportunity to kind of play and have some fun with it. So it's fun for both of us.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. Like that was such a unique idea, that youth summer league, because like you said, it got to bring all these people together in a different setting outside of their high school, right? Like it was completely different, and you're mixing teams up, and it was cool. And then I know you, like later on, I played in some of the senior leagues too, and like you had the stats, you had the website, it was slick, man. It was a whole thing. And I think like whatever you had, mentioned some mistakes with the brand and all that stuff like that, but you had a huge impact. That's the one thing. Like anyone from that era, if they say Hoops Fanatic, they have fond memories, whether it be from the leagues or just, again, like I remember just like popping by in Portage Place, but like intentionally going there because like you said, no one goes to Portage Place. But I remember, hey, let's go check out Hoops Fanatic, right? And so there's all these things, man. Like it was super impactful, and like sometimes in business, of course, you measure success on like actual like numbers and being able to be sustainable over time. But when it just comes to the impact and like on this, during this conversation we're having, because it was a basketball brand and you definitely had an impact on hundreds, if maybe more, thousands of people through that brand. So then again, the shorts alone, like that, I remember, because like, correct again, I don't know the time frame, but I just remember because you coached at Richmond and like they were all geared up all the time, man. You guys always,
they were always, they had the Hoopsfanatic brand for sure.
And people were jealous. People were jealous, man. Legitimately, like, yo, the jerseys are nice. We got these trash. They're from like the 1996. Like people like Glenlawn are still wearing the same jerseys that you were wearing somehow. Exactly. But it was awesome. Like they definitely helped, and it was great. Like Fort Richmond, probably one of my, in terms of coaching, is probably some of my most fondest kind of times with Daily Degree, and that the first year, like I couldn't have been blessed a more talented group. I actually, when you go back and you think back and you're like, holy, you failed those poor young kids, in terms of just knowing what you know now, how could you have done it better? And at that time, when you first start coaching specifically, I think I was still a player in mind, you know what I mean? So I could still physically do stuff, and I was really hard on them. Like I was just a tyrant, I would have to say at the end, but they were just so accepting, and they were a pretty tight knit group. But it was just think about it. It was just awesome. It wasn't even something I planned on doing. It actually, a kid named Ali was the one that got me to coach, because they asked if I'd come and do it, and I said no. And that dude kept showing up at Hoopsfanatic workplace every single day, saying, "Hey, come on, and come on and help coach," or whatever. And Regan Moses was kind of sending him over to make sure that I'd come and coach with her over at the spot. And it ended up becoming one of the great decisions of my life. I just, I'll never regret. I'll regret not being able to get them the championship, but because I think that I can put that on me, but not because of their talent. But other than that, just kind of getting to know the kids, and I call them kids still, but I mean, know them now as grown men and adults. I still see them, and it brings me nothing but joy when I see them. I like and smile, and can't wait to talk and see how they're doing. So it's been amazing. Yeah, that's the power of coaching, man. Like I always say that, like, I've had so many interviews with people who have coached and played, and everyone like has the same kind of, like, they light up, man. Like, it's like, you like, there's this weird, because especially if you played, and like, it's like you have this connection to leading people from the other side, and it's almost like you're paying it forward, you're giving back, but you're also going through with them. And there's this, it's just powerful, man. Coaching is special. I think I've heard from many people that I've interviewed, they say the same thing. Like, this is, I think Don Thompson said it. He's like, people will say, like, you're still coaching? And he's like, no. It's like, what do you mean I'm still coaching? Like, I get to coach. Like, this is a privilege, man. Like, this, like, I love it. Like, are you kidding me? You know what I mean? And so he kind of said it. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And then that's why when you're done and you don't have that feeling anymore, you need to step away. Right. Like it can't be something that you're just doing. And so it's interesting to hear that that's how you got into coaching. Essentially, you got, I know Ali, like, and he's persistent. He's a persistent guy. He's a persistent
young buck.
And so,
and I was like, okay, I'll go and do it. But I mean, you've done it. You think of guys that, have had opportunities to play at the next level. Wyatt Anders being one of the biggest, I think in terms of success story, that I know for sure that you played an integral part of his actual development, because it takes someone that wants to put in the extra hours, right? And it wasn't like you were getting paid to, you were probably losing money and time, right? And it's just something that you love and you want to see the success. Same thing with Justice Alley, and like he's an outstanding basketball player, but those times that you spend with that individual, is sometimes you don't realize it at the time, but it changes the framework in terms of how they might perceive themselves and how they might go about, if it's playing basketball or just attacking life in a certain way. It kind of changes. So it's pretty amazing. But I mean, you just named Don Thompson, and that guy is just amazing.
There's so many. So like we mentioned, like we're going through all this stuff here. Like you've played provincial team. You've obviously were, top 10 high school player, played in university, you played a year pro, You even played with Hotsauce.
Yeah.
You did the whole.
Yeah.
You did. You did the whole. You've coached.
Yeah.
Coached assistant at U of M. You coached with at Red River College as a head coach. You coached at FRC. You've done the Hoopsfanatic thing. So you've kind of touched every kind of. You ran leagues. You've literally done everything. One thing that we haven't talked about is your acting career.
Oh, baby.
And so I got to ask you, when I say Season on the Brink, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Ooh, me getting destroyed by Brian Dennehy so it was, I had no speaking role in that one. Lots of, Winnipeg guys were in this one, but I just happened to be a guy that happened to be in a lot of scenes.
Yep.
And the story for that one, for sure, I don't know if Dan or anyone has ever told you, but there's a part where we're at the stadium and Brian Dennehy is Bobby Knight at the time. And he is a scene that he's working on delivering a timeout, but it's not one of his freak out ones. It's one of his technical ones, but it's supposed to kind of give us a story about becoming a man or whatever and becoming a good basketball player and the team. And during the thing, the first time they spritz you with water.
Yeah.
And we're in the arena and it was cold. It was freezing. So during the timeout while he's doing monologue, the first take that goes on, and I ask one of our players, we would do in a normal timeout, because I was just cold. Okay, can I get your towel? That towel, guy gives me the towel in the timeout while they're filming. I wipe my head. I said, thank. I get back to him. I go on. And so I do it after Chris Lucas starts clowning me. He's like, oh, you think you're a big actor now because you grab for the towel. And I go, oh, yeah. I said, and then of course, me being a ham, I start saying, oh, you like that ad-libbing, huh? That's some nice work, huh? I'm ready for the big screen. But while I'm doing this and we're joking around with the boys, not realize Brian Dennehy is watching me from a distance. So he's sitting there and I'm going, wait until I was like, oh, wait till you see what I have for the next scene. So same scene, goes back to it. I'm sitting in the timeout and it actually, I'm in the timeout, exact same thing happens. Same guy, same place. He starts going into his thing and I go to grab the towel from my teammate and he has big hands. I have big hands. He has huge, heavy hands.
Yeah.
He hits my arm so hard, it drops the towel. I poop my pants, basically. I freak out, and he lays into me. So when my head goes back, and he is just reaming me out, the whole entire stadium goes quiet, right? He finishes it off. He goes, da, 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 goes crazy. And then the director goes, cut, right? And everyone's quiet, hair, director, everybody's dead quiet. And I'm I've just lost his job. I've gotten fired. It's over. And he stops. He looks at me. He winks and goes, how do you like that for ad-libbing? Right? And he starts laughing. And he thought it was just the best. He thought it was the best.
Oh, man.
But the actual DVD and the poster was that scene. So it was me getting reamed out by him was actually the scene. Yeah, it was amazing. It was the day that I thought, oh, my acting career has begun and all at the same time. But it was pretty fun. We've had some fun with other movies, but that one was really, really cool because you got to meet Digger Phelps and they had a whole bunch of ESPN guys that were before. Who's the big podcast guy? He used to be part of ESPN. He's younger, but
is that Russillo? Not Russillo. Not him.
He used to be on ESPN. He got fired because he said
Bill
something
Simmons?
about the NFL.
Bill
Simmons. Bill Simmons
apparently
was there, but I didn't know who Bill Simmons was. He was asking questions and not realizing he was there. But it was pretty cool because it was ESPN's first movie they've ever done, and it was terrible. It was
it's bad.
Movie. It's
so
bad.
It's bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so
well, it's funny because I was in the movie. I was an extra when I was one of the players, and I was there for 3 or 4 days when they were shooting. And I remember being freezing, and they spritz you down. Played on 3 teams. I was on Purdue, Michigan State, and some other team, and they just put an afro on me. At one point, I was on Michigan. I was supposed to be a 6'9" center. And I'm like, I'm 6'4", but like, you kind of look like him. You're light skin, whatever. You can be that guy. They put a fro on me. The movie's terrible. It's so bad, but it's so interesting seeing all you, because like you're on Indiana and like there's scenes where it's like they're right on you. Like and you're in the locker room and Becker is a coach. It's crazy. It's like so many Winnipeggers. It was really cool. Really, really cool. But you were in some, weren't you in the recent movie as well that they just shot?
Yeah. So we did the, what was that? The Sudden Death 2. So Death 2.
I watched the trailer. I was like, what is this?
I'm truly a B, maybe a C rated actor.
Do you have lines in it?
No, we don't. We didn't have lines in it. We were just we were supposed to just be coaches. They cut. I think I'm in it for 2 seconds. I haven't even watched the full movie yet.
Okay.
But some people have sent me snapshots where me and Dan are standing beside each other, kind of talking, whatever. But yeah, it's my movie career has been short-lived. But I ended up joining the ACTRA thing because of that movie. They asked if I'd join it, and I said sure. Let's give her a go. And
why not?
Yeah, it's just whatever. If it pops up, I'll try it out and practice. Funny thing about it, I don't know if you've heard, there's a new movie coming out here, not movie, but a TV show called The Porter.
No.
And they had, it's about, it was actually all Black actors, a Black story or whatever. And they were filming it here in Winnipeg. And through my acting kind of portion, I went and decided, I'll put my name in. They asked me to put my name in for it. So I read a part, and I usually like looking for the smallest part. But I got a read for a main part, like a real lead principal part. And I was like, I don't want to do this. But my sister says, you have to do it. You need to get the experience in terms, because I don't know anything about the industry. Yeah. Now, to this point, I'm not doing anything in terms of practicing or whatever, because I was just like, whatever, it's just acting. Like, what do you got to do? So I get to the actual read, and I'm telling you, I couldn't even read. The guy was like, and then the guy that was doing the actual read with me was so good. This guy named Ray, and I was like, holy, he's an actor. Like, I was like, he just turned voices, and I was like, oh. And the producer was like, well, we're here for 3 years. Go and work on your craft, basically. And so I was like, wow, it was super bad. And I was like, well, I was pretty upset and sat for me for a couple of days. And then finally I'd contacted, someone had contacted me, and then a friend named Eric was like, oh, I heard about your audition, right? He had heard through the movie world that my audition was so bad. And after that, he was like, hey, I told you before, I said, acting is no different than basketball. You have to go and you got to put in the work. Like, you got to go and practice, you got to go and read, you got to go and do all these things in order just to maybe get a chance to go and get on stage. And it was exactly what I think I need to hear from him, because I was like, yeah, you know what? If I want to do this, even if it's just a part-time, whatever, I'm going to treat it just like a basketball. So I got an acting coach, and I started to go and do all this stuff. Yeah, so I've been doing that as like a fun little thing, but no rules, but just good in terms of, hey, prepare like you would in any other sport, because really that's what it is. It's just like a different position. So
that's interesting. That's cool. So you think they're shooting for 3 years, you're obviously got the acting coach, so you're much more prepared now.
Much more prepared. I'm going to read for it again. My goal is maybe if it stays in Winnipeg, if I can get, I don't care, one small role, but I just need it as a redemption song for this is my epic failure. So that's really what I'm trying to do it for. So it will be pretty. It's called The Porter, so it should be coming out at the end of the month or whatever. But it's called The Porter. So it's crazy. Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, you have personality, but like you said, like it's like acting is like a whole, like there's people that are actors that have no personality, but they can act. Yeah, they can act like that personality.
They can exactly do it. Yeah, so
you're just like, wow.
I get all nervous and all of a sudden, and they say a funny part about acting is you try being as much as yourself as possible. Like, you just try putting as much of yourself to be comfortable, at least in that role. And I would be like, if you told me I was doctor, I'd start changing my vernacular.
Yeah.
Like a terrible actor, right? So,
yeah.
So I've been learning all that now. So it's pretty cool. So it's not too bad.
That's
Not
sweet.
too bad
That's
at
sweet.
all. Yeah.
So we're getting close to wrapping up here. So I have a couple more questions. So just some quick hitting ones. First thing that comes to mind, your most memorable basketball story. This can be a player, coach. It can be on the bus. It could be after, whatever. It could be anything, but just related to basketball. Something that stands out.
Oh man, that's good question. I think when you said it, the first one that pops into mind was my last year playoffs, playing the University of Winnipeg, the Westmen, and at that time they did series, of course, best of three. We're in the final game of the series, and we are losing to the Westmen in the fourth quarter by 20 points. And 20 points, I think, fourth quarter, but it was 20 points. By the time quarter kind of ends up, we have about 6 minutes left, and we're still down by about 20. And this is like the end of my career. Like, so it's now we're getting to the end of my career. And it was nuts because I remember going into the timeout. I remember being at a free throw first, look over at the bench. And Adam will know that at this time I have zero love for the Westmen. I have nothing at all. I look over and I go, I can't believe I'm going to lose to these guys in my last year. Like, I was so just Sook's on the team, Matt Timrati, they had a great kind of squad. And we always kind of play close. So we go into a timeout, and I remember in the timeout, at this point, Chris Lucas wasn't playing much of the game, right? We had someone else kind of playing, but Chris gets subbed in. I call in a huddle and I go, just before we go out, and I say to the guys, this is going to be the greatest comeback we've ever mounted my entire life.
Hold on. Right? You said this?
I say this, yeah. So I say it in front of the thing. I go, we're going to shock everybody. But I'm going to be honest with you. When I say it, I'm saying it just to pump our guys up so that, you know, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking the likelihood of this happening is like so slim to none that, you know, as Coach Suffield would say, slim just left town, right? So the chances of us winning are very, very slim. But I say it to our guys, and I say, okay, we're going to go out there, we're going to put on some work. So I think I have like three fouls this time. Sook is not Sooksing as we know him as today, but he's still a younger guard, really, really talented. I decide that I'm going to cover Sook full court for the rain of the game. Like, if I'm going to go out, I'm going out in a blast out. You can foul me out, whatever it might be. So we start to mount a comeback, and we end up coming back and winning the game by, I think we end up winning by 2 or 3.
Wow.
So by 20, it's something I hold against Sook for the rest of his life. Chris Lucas was unbelievable. He came in and he played as it was his last year too. Man, he banged off 3 after 3 after 3. It was probably the greatest comeback, like, for sure. The whole game, the Westmen used to do this. Their trash talk to me as a crowd would yell, "Ogo, Ogo." So at the end of that game, I remember jumping onto the table like I was Michael Jordan, yelling, yeah. But it was so emotional that by the end of it, I was so high, I started crying in the change room because I was just like so happy that we, that we didn't lose and didn't lose to the Westmen, which is our arch rivals at that time. But it was that's probably one of my fondest memories, and it's something that I use against Sooksing to this day. So
that's amazing. That's a great story. So this was in, like you're saying, you were playing at the Duckworth Center.
Yeah, no. So it's not at the Duckworth. We're actually at IGAC. Yeah, we have a better record, but it was our final game at IGAC. We didn't play well at the beginning of it, and we competed. We went out there and we stole it. We took it from them. It's the greatest ever. I think hopefully it's online somewhere.
That's awesome.
Adam probably does have it on there somewhere. So yeah,
that's sick. Okay, so funniest basketball story.
Oh, this is again against the West End. Yeah, against the Westmen, we're playing. We have our warm up going, and we're going back and forth. And we have a good friend of ours, Stephen Robbins. I don't know if but he was kind of a role guy on our team, but strong as an ox, like super strong. And the guys would always kind of poke a little bit of fun at him if he threw a pass that was soft, right? And they'd be like, "Steve, kind of throw a pass, I'm mad," or whatever, right? So we're in the old Bison East gym, and we're doing the layup line. And the first pass he throws to Josh, and it's kind of soft, and Josh is like, throw a good pass next time. So the next time, and if you knew Steven at this time, whenever he wanted to like focus and do something, and he was really strong, so he'd go, he'd get this like big breath, and then he would throw his pass, but his passing wasn't necessarily accurate. So while this is going on, Coach Redlake is sitting on the sideline, standing and looking away from the thing, and he goes, and he rifles this. But the layup line, if the layup line was here, Coach Redlake was over here, and he completely threw it way past, I don't even know who he was throwing. He was trying to prove that he could throw it. He hit poor Coach right in the stomach. He was wounded, but I thought it was just the funniest thing ever. He was mad, of course, because we're just like, what are you guys doing? But I just thought, it was so silly, because I was like, this guy throws his pass with no intention of hurting Coach or whatever, but he hits him. If you know me, I have my big laugh. I start cackling or laughing, and it was nuts. But that's probably one of my funniest basketball kind of things. So yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. One more question. So like we mentioned at the beginning, you're still playing with the young guys. You're still out here. You're still running. I don't know how you're doing. I'm 30. I turned 39. I retired, man. I'm done. So kudos to you. You're out here killing it.
You could be playing. I could be.
I mean, I've made the decision not to. But and I mentioned earlier, like you've literally I'm trying to think of something that you haven't done. Like you haven't, I don't know, coached professionally. I mean, you've really kind of done everything in basketball, and you're still playing with some of these young guys. So if you can kind of give a message to some of these younger basketball players, and it's kind of just like one thing, maybe that can encapsulates your journey, something you've learned, what would that message be?
I would say work. I think if there's anything for me that it's ever been, it's been, working hard. I think that the difference between many of what our kids, like some of our elite kids that you see go to the next level, who is young Saki. Saki is a great lesson on working. Jared Obafemi Jackson, he's going to have one of the best pro players out of Winnipeg, and that's because of his work ethic. It's not because of it's part of his skill and whatever. It wasn't like he was given 6'8", an incredible frame. That's just work that he's put in. And I think when I watch some of the younger kids, we get caught up in, and it's easy. I mean, I know what I was like when I was younger. You get caught up in all the flossy stuff, the sexy, I just shoot threes because, Stephen Curry shoots threes or whatever. But Stephen Curry worked his butt off to get to where he is. And I think that we have an immense amount of young talent. I think that we just need to learn that in order to get to that top, to the pinnacle of it, you got to be willing to work and sacrifice in order to make it. So I mean, if there's anything, and that's usually what I would say when I coach. Now I coach my daughter and their little WNBA team.
Nice.
I enjoy all the little games we play, but the one underlying thing, no different than what my father said when I was younger, was put in the effort. Act like you care. So if you care, don't just look like a basketball player, be a basketball player. Right? There's a big difference in my mind in terms of a guy that likes to play the part, and I can dress the clothing and make it look like. But then real basketball guys, you talk about Graham Bodner. Graham Bodner is a guy that works. He'll find any gym and get to work, and that's why he's successful at what he does and plays. So that's what I would say to the younger generation. If you're out there and you want to become great, know that there's going to be a lot of sacrifice, but you got to really actually put in the work in order to get to where you want to go.
So well said, man. Because that's like one of the few things you can control.
Yeah.
There's not many, and that's one of the things you can, right? So at least take advantage of the one thing you can control and control it,
correct. Yeah, it's very true. So
that's great, man. we're gonna end on that. This was awesome, man. This was like, no disrespect to some of the legends I've already got to interview, but just knowing you, I've never actually heard your story, right? Like I've kind of like saw spots of it, so it's super cool just to sit down and just kind of chop it up, listen to you kind of tell some stories and kind of the journey which brought you to here, man. And you're still playing, man. Like I just can't believe it. Like it's and we'll end. I'll just end on this. Graham said you're still decently athletic. He says you still got some in you. So he says you save it, but like you have some moments still. So
I'm a soccer player now. I didn't even tell you that. I have turned back to soccer as in my older days. All of us went and played soccer. I'm terrible at it, and I keep getting better. And basketball is the absolute opposite. Every time I play it, I know that I see a hole, but I can't get to that hole. Like so, but yeah, playing is. I don't think I'll ever stop playing. I mean, if it's not senior men's, I'll go to an open gym. If not, I'll be coaching. I'm excited to coach my girls for a little while, and my young guy coming up. But that's the love for the game. You want to stay involved in any sort of way you possibly can. So
yeah, it's perfect, man. All right, we'll end it there. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, man. Okay. All right. Take care. Peace.
Right, later.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please like, subscribe, follow, and share this series, and reach out to us with your comments on the show. Thanks again for joining us.